Oi, todo mundo! Oi, eu sou a Lana Trauzinski, autora de Recalculando a Rota e criadora do programa Recalculando a Rota, aqui ao vivo com o Kingsley Dennis, que também é autor de diversos livros ainda não traduzidos para o português, entre eles New Consciousness for a New World, The Phoenix Generation, The Dawn of the Akashic Age e mais 1000 outros que, assim, ele tem acho que uns 20 livros publicados. Ele é muito esperto, muito inteligente e, além de tudo, eu tive a oportunidade de conhecê-lo pessoalmente e ter conversas com ele. Ele é uma daquelas pessoas que faz com que, assim, a tua mente dê 180 graus de mudança em muito pouco tempo, assim. É uma pessoa fantástica, muito, muito inteligente, PhD em Sociologia e já foi professor de muitas universidades na Inglaterra. Então, vamos lá, vou falar com ele junto com todos vocês. Agora eu vou começar a falar em inglês, né, para ele poder entender. All right, Kingsley, welcome, welcome, and thank you so much for being with us. I made this entire introduction on how amazing and wonderful and spectacular you are.
Thank you, Elena, but I think you've oversold me.
Exactly. Now, don't disappoint people, after all that.
Well, I'm just sitting here in sunny Andalusia, so well, greetings to you and to everybody. Yeah. Thanks for connecting, for inviting me.
We have about 80 people watching from Brazil at the moment, but whoever is not online will be able to access the link later and see the whole thing later, right? Wonderful. And well, I made the introduction of you, but I mean, some people still don't know you. I'd rather would prefer to have you introduce yourself. So speak a little about yourself and about your work and all of that before we start the conversation.
Yes, sure. And well, hello, Brazil. To think that I have probably 80 people more or less sitting around in my house, that's how it feels. It's a wonderful crowded house. So, well, talk a bit about myself. That's always the most difficult part, Alana. Other people like yourself do it much better. Well, I think you've said it correctly. That
I said it all. I said it all. So maybe you can. I said like that you're an author and all of the books you wrote, and that you're a PhD. But maybe you can speak a little bit about the latest stuff that you've been thinking about. You know, what is like your latest book, your next book, or like some of the last things you've been doing.
Okay, I'll talk a little bit about perhaps the more meaningful things rather than the PhD stuff, which doesn't mean much.
Sure.
Well, what it is, really, I've spent all my life until now in education, more or less in terms of working, but I spent a lot of that time traveling around the world because I was also interested in visiting other cultures, learning from other cultures and other environments, and so I was a kind of traveler first before anything else. So I spent, for example, 5 years in Turkey working there at a university, and always in the back of my mind I was interested in how in different cultures you have different thinking patterns, what we can call a different consciousness, and how people were manifesting their thinking patterns according to the age, their culture, and what was going on at the time. And so for me, in that time, the world was changing so fast, and we had this huge phenomenon which was called globalization, for better or for worse. And so I was actually a teacher of literature at that time, and I realized that instead of teaching about dead writers, I wanted to learn more about what was going on in the world. So I decided to go back into the university system and retrain myself in sociology, because I wanted to, again, put my interest in the changing world, but at the same time my personal interest was in the changing consciousness of the people. So I wanted to put that together, changing social patterns with the thinking patterns and the paradigms of the age. And so I studied how people use technology. In fact, I think I was perhaps one of the first people to write a thesis on bloggers and blogging way back in like 2004, 2005, before it was even really cool. And so I wanted to see how people connected across the world, across time and space. So eventually, after a fairly successful career at university, I wanted to put more focus onto the individual side, about how individuals were changing their own self-development and again, consciousness. So I decided that I didn't feel comfortable doing that in academia. So I left the country, I left the job, I left everything, and I came over here to Spain to literally plant the seeds of a new life, to work on my own material in perfect freedom without any constraints from academia or anyone, and to try to make it a success of it. And I've been here 6 years, and I've produced a body of work that you've mentioned. So that's a brief overview, Elena.
Nice. Well, and I was talking to you the other day, right? You actually caught me on a really bad day. And thank you so much for like listening to me and everything. And I also, after we talked, read your article about Spotifying our minds, right? Where you say, let me see if I understood well, right? You say we don't really create human consciousness, but we rather access it, right? Just like Spotify does with music, like where we don't own the music, but we are able to access it, right? Mm-hmm. And that seems to me like a new way of seeing things, because I was always thinking I was responsible for producing my own consciousness, right? I thought consciousness was mine, was something that I was doing for myself, right? So I guess my first question is like, what is the best way to tune in then and sync with that consciousness that you're talking about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, what's for me is so exciting about these times is that we're actually going to start breaking and changing a lot of paradigms at the moment. Mm-hmm. And so this is all in flux right now, because the way we view the world, the way we perceive how we participate in the world actually creates the world we live in. And so at certain times we live in grand narratives or mythologies. You know, for example, in the past, one mythology was that we lived on a flat earth, you know, and we laugh about it now, but at the time, people they seriously believed it. And so until now, we've lived in another grand mythology, and that grand mythology is that life on this planet, and any planet, is an accident. Just molecules come together, and we are living on the back of a dead rock, flying through lifeless space. That's the mythology, okay? Which means that matter is primary. And anything such as consciousness is just, again, an accidental byproduct. The mythology of science has said until now that the human brain has become so complex with its interactions in the neurons that it eventually produces a self-aware consciousness, okay? So everything's just an accident. Well, you know, that doesn't work for me as a mythology. And luckily, there's things happening. One is science is also reevaluating itself. And I think humanity is also understanding itself on a better level. So let me answer your question about Spotify or mine before it gets too complicated.
Yeah, man, you're going too far over here, you know. I'm like trying to follow.
Okay, keep it in. Okay. Well, let's say that we've felt that we produce consciousness as a byproduct. It's secondary, okay? Let's change the whole thing around. Let's say that, in fact, consciousness is the primary essence or the primary existence in the cosmos. It's everywhere. And like the sea is everywhere, let's say.
Right.
And matter manifests from the sea of consciousness. Just like a wave rises from the sea, so does consciousness. So, for example, you take a television. The television doesn't produce its programs. it receives them, it interprets it, okay? So if you have a black and white television, you see the programs at the quality and the level of black and white. Then if you have a larger 25-inch television, the quality of your picture is according to that screen. If you now have a 50-inch plasma high-definition bendy type of television that everyone's producing, you're going to get the best type of receiving the program. And I say consciousness is like that it's everywhere in the cosmos, and we receive and transmit it. We're transceivers. We receive and transmit. So, but because of who we are, we interpret and filter the consciousness according to our own selves. So if we have grown up in an environment of very deep, strong social conditioning, we will interpret the consciousness according to that condition. Okay? And I use the analogy of Spotify your mind because I think society is going through the same type of change and recognition. Before, we had an age of ownership. I have to own everything. I have to own my CDs, my music, for example. I have to own cars. I have to own everything. I have to own a computer. Where now technology, if I can just finish, is just taking us away from that. So we don't have to own the content on the cloud, we access it. So everything now, we're moving from the age of ownership to the age of access, which reflects perfectly the way consciousness works. We don't own it, it's not a part of our ego, we access it.
Okay, so
does that make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense. But like, so it depends on the work you do on yourself then. The more you are clean yourself of the virus, let's say, of like the old programs that have been installed without really our permission sometimes. So the cleaner you are of those viruses, the better you interpret consciousness. And
spot on.
Right?
Yeah. What this new mythology allows is that then it makes consciousness, it's available for everyone. It's not just the elite people or the mystics or the people who meditate.
That's why I translated your latest text to like, I don't have to be smart to be conscious, you know, I don't have to feel that I'm very intelligent in order to be able to access consciousness.
Yeah, well, in fact, to be intelligent or clever may, in fact, block access to consciousness, because intelligence and cleverness is another cultural category. You know, what is intelligence? What is cleverness? In fact, often the states most appropriate for accessing consciousness are ones which are actually simple, the ones where you are relaxed and you are away from the disturbances. That's why many people who have, let's say, moments of, let's say, cosmic consciousness or epiphanies, they're in half a dream state, or they're in a very tranquil state, because then the mind has less garbage going around. So in fact, that means that responsibility is on each person to clean themselves, as you say. And if you look at many of these wisdom traditions, these teachings, they all have one thing in common, really, and that is that they try to decondition the person first. Because unless we decondition all our beliefs, our social conditioning, and take away all this stuff that we've been filling up inside of us, we have less room to receive the living intelligence or the consciousness. So in fact, it's a new way of actually looking at the world around us.
Okay, so I heard a little bit of what you're saying when I was studying like quantum physics, right? It says that like the universe is self-conscious, and I mean, this self-conscious thing knows exactly where it's going and what is necessary in order to get there. So when we think we're deciding and we're making all these changes and affecting the world in so many ways, it's actually an illusion that we think that. It's actually like the whole thing knows where it's going, and it's happening regardless of like our let's say our interference, right?
Yes, there's
Kind of
two
what you're
things.
saying.
Yeah, the two things I would probably comment there, Elena, is that yes, I mean finally quantum physics and the new sciences are catching up with what's been said for millennia by the wisdom traditions. You know, they said that matter reality, materialism, is an illusion. You know,
Hmm.
all the wisdom traditions have said that, and they said that the underlying essential uh, cosmos is a unity. And now quantum physics is saying that. So because it's a unity, it's what we call a non-local field. It's just one connected field, like the sea is connected. And
Hmm.
so, in a sense, one part of the universe is always in total contact with the other side of the universe because it's connected all the time. That's what quantum physics is saying. So we are living in a unified field. Now, I think our technologies are slowly manifesting that in the world, like secondary, like the internet is trying to connect us. But what that means is that I also think one of the most important elements of the time we're in now is that because we're becoming aware that the universe is connected and aware, we have the opportunity to consciously participate in our own lives. So what you said about the universe like is all connected and takes us along with us unknowingly, I think that's what has been happening until now. But if we can be more conscious in our lives and aware of participating in a environment which is always connected, we can try to connect with that field, that consciousness. So we can try to enrich our lives by that. So not just be taking away like on the sea adrift.
Hmm. Right. Yeah, well, that changes. You also
Woof,
talked
heavy stuff, yeah.
the last time the last time we talked. You also talked about like the world is changing from some seas into other seas. Can you talk a little bit about that? From competition,
Mhm.
capitalism, and what are the four C's?
Okay. Well, what I said is that in every age there's a certain energy which defines the age, and I would say that the last age of human civilization has been one that's based around what I call the four C's: conflict, competition, control, and conquer. Okay, because it was a very vertical energy, top down, hierarchical, very much a masculine energy. I'm not talking about gender. I'm talking about energy. One about control, goal orientated, very industrial. Now, I think with the energy of the age we're moving into is we're going away from the vertical into a horizontal type of energy, into a distributed energy. We're connected across time and space. We have distributed networks of connectivity like the internet and communications, mobile phones, even energy we're looking to be connected, distributed. And what this is that a different energy supports this. It's an energy of connection, communication, compassion, and consciousness.
Mm.
And also, it's a kind of nurturing energy, which I feel is more feminine. Again, not gender, but it's an energy of connecting, nurturing, multitasking. On the
Mhm.
internet, we multitask, you know, and that's not a masculine energy, multitasking. You know, masculine energy is doing one thing and finishing it, and before moving to the next. So I think this energy of circulation, connection, collaboration is energy that will support the projects of today. So that's why I say that we shouldn't fight the system. If we try and fight the system, we are using the old energy of conflict. In fact, we should go into a circular energy, connect with friends, connect with projects, do your own thing, because that type of working is now supported by the new energy coming into the world.
Yay! I'm so happy because like my kind of work has all of those things, connection,
Exactly. Yeah.
collaboration, and a lot of people who actually like me are the ones who I say, like, you don't have to focus, you know, you have to, you are able to, whenever you're creating a new business, you don't really have to focus. You can actually have all these kinds of references, and you're able to be someone who likes several things and try to join them together, you know. Like, if I said I could be a writer a few days back, like I'd be a writer, and I'd also do YouTube videos like I do, and an online program and all these things, you know. My entire life, people told me that I wasn't focused, you know.
Hmm.
And now I see that as highly positive, you know, because
Exactly.
I actually seem to be focused, but I actually was able to join all these things in one work, you know. So
Yeah.
would you say that, like, the future of businesses from now on are the businesses who have that kind of thing, like collaboration, um, sharing, and all of these C's that you mentioned?
Oh, without a doubt, because obviously, because the people moving into those businesses, especially the younger generations, they have this understanding. So, I mean, some of the most recently the most inventive, creative projects have been crowdsourced on places like Kickstarter, because now people are realizing I don't have to go to one big company to sponsor me, and then I'm under their authority. I'm going to go to the people, let the people sponsor me, and therefore we can collaborate and do the project together, and that's taking off everywhere. There's small projects around the world working like that. There's microfinance projects. Especially, I mean, in Africa and India, they are really popular because people don't have, are not being taken seriously by the big players. So they go and look for their own people to support them, and smaller projects. And so that's really happening today. And the idea of doing one thing only, like you mentioned, a writer. I mean, that's what we do. In the past, a writer was always known as like a hermit. You sit
Right.
in your room, you write a book, and like nobody sees you. You don't leave the house. You're shy. Now, a person who writes, they have to produce content. We're not consumers. We're prosumers. We produce stuff. We have to do videos. We have to do talks. We have to make readings. We have to do gatherings. Because doing one thing alone is not going to, it's not about that anymore. It's about doing multiple things.
Mhm.
And businesses and other projects are all going to manifest that similar energy.
So in the Phoenix generation, then you mentioned the the entire, I mean, all of these people that are being born already with this other kind of ship, right? With the other kind of all these things that we were talking about are already part of that person. He's like not conditioned in the way that we are. They are already like being born as change, right? And
Yeah.
can you talk a little bit about them about the Phoenix generation? What do you consider like they'll do for us, and what are the
Mhm.
major changes that are going to happen when all these people are when these guys are like most part of the population, you know?
Yeah. When these dudes arrive,
Yeah,
I
man,
mean,
I'm excited.
yeah. I mean, it's been happening in waves. I call it the Phoenix generation because I'm saying that the generations coming now are more en masse. They've always been coming on waves, but not on a large enough scale. So, for example, the children before, like you said, they got thought of, they were not focusing. And sometimes in many schools, sadly, especially in America, they got given drugs because they had attention deficit disorder. I mean, that's a crime in itself. They had attention deficit for the rubbish that they were trying to teach in the schools, but their minds were going around on all other things. And so when the new children come in, they'll have to change education systems because the old style won't support these young children because their minds will be creative. And what I'm also feeling myself and what I see in the younger generation now is that they're they're acting more from their intuition, what I call intuitive intelligence, not acquired information. you acquire information at school, but what you have as intuition is your own self-knowledge. So they're going to be putting that more in the world. And I think when they come on a larger scale, they'll have to change the system, because the education system won't work anymore. The subjects they're trying to teach will no longer be relevant for the changing world. And let's say in 15 years' time, more or less, a lot of these young people will start to enter the social domain. They'll be 16, 17, 18 years old, and so they'll start to enter work. They'll start to enter these roles, business, media, but they're already producing content now. You know, when they're 10, 12 years, they'll be making videos, they'll be writing their computer apps and programs. They're coming in much earlier. And when they start to come in, they're going to change the system from within. So whereas we've been trying to change the system from without and getting a headache for it because we're just bum, the more organic and natural way and the permanent way to make change is by having it organically making change from within. And for the first time, we're going to have a generation being born into a fully digitized world. They're going to be born into a world where already they will sense a different time and space. They're reaching out to people across the world. They don't have borders. It's a completely new world, and the first generation to experience that. And I think we're going to see great change in the years to come. And is it cold over there? Because you're wearing a big fluffy hat.
Yeah, it's kind of cold in the south of Brazil now. It's kind of cold, but I'm actually just being trendy, you know.
Wow. Well, I'm sweating here. Whoa.
I'm like Phoenix generation, you know. I just look cool on camera, you know. All right, so I have a question on education since you mentioned that. It was my friend Adriana Calabro, who is actually now trying to study several forms of non-formal education, right? Do you think it could be possible that, like, let's say in 20 years, we will have like a critical mass of people that has not been in school or has been unschooled and having studied by the concepts of like an education that is not formal? Do you think that's like maybe a trend or something that will happen?
Oh yeah, I think it's not even a case of maybe, but it's already happening now. And good luck to your friend Adriana, which I support totally. It's happening now because also another trend that's happening is that people are more going to homeschooling. I've got friends who are taking their children out of school and they're creating groups with other parents and they're doing homeschooling. And also what's supporting that is there's now so many of these courses online, where some of them are peer-to-peer and a lot of them are free. A lot of institutions are now putting their information courses for free. So you know, MIT and Harvard are doing that, and also colleges around the world, all over the world they're doing that. And so you can take courses that are meaningful for you. Because the problem with formal education is that education is a result of the Industrial Revolution. The schools were just to educate children to be able to enter the factory with minimal knowledge to do basic work. Okay, and that hasn't changed much. But now a lot of the subjects are no longer relevant for the world to come. So I would say that people who are interested in educating themselves should think about what's meaningful for them and find the subjects online and do some of your own self-education. And that is going to be the trend, is that we're customizing the information and knowledge that we want to fit into the life we want to make for ourselves in the world to come.
Because I mean, education now does not make sense at all. Like, I would not nowadays I would not be able to stand in a classroom pretending that the teacher still is the owner of information when you can Google it and like know better than him, right? Does not make any sense. So that's one of the major changes we need, right? It's education.
Yeah. It's a major thing, and you know, a lot of students have been fearful about education, because if they fail, they're worried about what their family or society will say. And you know, I remember clearly when I was working at university as a lecturer, several students would come to me and say, okay, this is the essay that you've given to us. What do you want us to write?
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, well, I want you to write what you feel you want to write. And they said, well, no, we prefer if you tell us what you want to hear, because we're afraid that we'll fail if we write what we want to write. You know?
Yeah, that's what we were used to. You know, we were used to like say things and do things just like to please the teacher, and not think we haven't been taught to think for ourselves, right?
Yeah. And that has to change. You know, we have to throw it out the window. We have to give the student, the person, the power to choose what they feel is right for them, so they can express themselves and learn themselves. They should be telling us. We should be learning from them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's the other way around. We've got it completely screwed up.
Mm-hmm.
But education is definitely going to change, because students and people are going to start looking elsewhere for the knowledge they want to find.
Right.
And so,
would you say like teachers are no longer people who own the information, but instead they'll be the people who inspire the other the other generations, right? Yet teachers have to be more inspiring people than knowledgeable, let's say.
yeah, like you know, the Dead Poets Society, the well-known film of the 80s. Yeah, I mean, that was the original role of the teacher. The teacher should be a communicator. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
is not someone who holds the knowledge or information, because I've seen some at my university, some professors who were, you know, regarded as the best in their field in this subject, and I watched their lectures, and they couldn't communicate anything. It was like so. To be a teacher is about allowing yourself to be a channel to communicate. If you can't communicate, it doesn't matter what you know.
Mm-hmm.
You have to communicate. And that's now, I think, a major element in the energy of the world today. When we're talking now, we have to communicate. It doesn't matter how intelligent we are. Intelligence doesn't matter. It's can we communicate and inspire each other to be inspired and then to pass it along. That's what we should be doing.
It's also sharing, right? It's also the sharing. I mean, it's much better to share than to compete, right?
Yeah, that's the new energy. It's not the age of ownership, it's the age of access.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So it's not like my information, I'm keeping it. No, it's about sharing.
Mm-hmm. So, in another class that I've done, I did a class on Hypeness Talks, which was like an online congress here in Brazil, and I used your material for that. And one of the things you said over there as like some of the trends in the next 20 years is like energy as being more important for like all the health system is gonna care more about energy, not so much about the proper health system, right? So would you say like energy, I said something like energy will be seen as the main thing when it comes to health, right? Our energy, the quality of our energy. So would you say that all the therapists that work with that, like let's say Reiki and all of these energy work, will they be as important as doctors?
Okay. So yeah, when you talk about energy, you're talking about the biological energy of the body, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. What I actually feel and what I wrote about is that there needs to be, and I feel there will be, a major change in the health industry, because at the moment it's not a health industry, it's an illness industry. It promotes illness so it can sell its products to cure its own illness, and you know, and that is a pharmaceutical drug mega corporation. So it doesn't look at the source of problems. It only looks at the effects and tries to cut off the effect and not the source. So because I feel that people are going to start being more intuitive over their bodies, feeling about what they need, which means changing their diets, feeling about what food works for them, and also being much more intuitive about diagnosing themselves and putting more confidence onto these alternative therapies, which means looking after the body's balance and harmony. Because disease is a dis-ease, it's a disharmony. So the body's biological energy systems are out of balance. And so I do feel that people will start to then give more confidence to these energy therapies, whether it's Reiki is one, but there's one which are, I think, work more strongly with the body. I mean, there are acupunctural therapies. There are ones which actually try to tune the human biofield, and I know that they've been using this in some cures for cancer, which have been successful in trying to rebalance the biofield of the body. And so I think people are going to move away from taking little pills. You know, the future won't really support pill taking. It'll support the whole body, you know, and that's part of the energy that we'll be working with. Yeah.
They'll also be fixing you from the inside out instead of outside in, right?
Yeah, I mean, because, you know, popping a pill, all they're trying to do is cut off the symptoms. They're not looking for what is the real cure, because the body is a wonderful, amazing piece of equipment. And if you are ill, it's because your body is trying to tell you something. Something's wrong. The body wants to heal itself. It doesn't want to take 10 different pills all at once. It's trying to say, look, I'm ill, you know, work with me. And it tries to give you signals. It wants to work with you to cure itself. And so, for example, the illness industry has investigated a pill. It investigates 2 or 3 pills. But when you put 3 or 4 pills together, there's no way you can understand the combined effects of those different pills. No research can understand the complex relations of 3 or 4 pills. So if we're taking 5, 6, 7 pills, you know, the body is going to find it a lot harder to work to get better.
Right, right. Yeah. Hopefully, well, I never trusted these things very much because I come from a family of doctors, and of course my parents and my brothers have other different ways of seeing medicine and all of that, but still they still like trust it in a way where when it's really needed, it's a pill that you need, or an injection or whatever, you know. So I grew to not really trust other things that much. It's like, okay, go do some Reiki, but whenever you really need, it's a shot that you need to take, you know. Though I've been solving pretty much lately. Of course, I have developed myself, and I am much more subtle nowadays. I listen to my body much more, and so I am able to notice subtle changes in my body, and I've been fixing like everything pretty much with energy work, you know, with Reiki and other like energy type works, and I guess it depends on how sensitive you are, like with your own body, right? If it gets to a point where you need to express through a disease, then it's already, you're already way ahead than you need to be if you start noticing from the beginning, right? When it's still just energy and it's not yet a disease, right?
Yeah, and I'd like to say that, you know, every person should work this out for themselves. They shouldn't just take one approach because they've listened to it. Work it out for themselves, because sometimes you do need a combination. For example, if you've been in a car accident and your body's cut open, you're going to need to be rushed to hospital right away for emergency surgery. You're not going to say, no, give me Reiki. Because there are circumstances where you may need one thing or the other. But if you're feeling depressed, or you can't sleep, or your body feels a bit out of balance, you don't need to immediately take a pill. You can work in a different way. everything is open for interpretation according to the person and their circumstances and context. So there's no black and white model.
Right, right. So we'll feel. I guess some people are gonna start coming in right now because I sent the link. I set it for 3:45 or something. So I'm gonna make the last question and then we'll wait for some other people to come in. Like,
Sure.
what would you say are going to be like the three major changes in our way of seeing things in our society and our businesses in the next like 20 to 30 years?
Well, one thing I think is going to be the empowerment of the individual.
Mm-hmm.
And the authorities are really worried about this, and they have been for some time. Because before, you see, the individuals were easy to manage because they were individual. They weren't connected. They couldn't share information. So the only information they got was from the mainstream government channels or mainstream media, which is programming. Okay. Now, the individuals are not only connecting, but they're sharing information away from the mainstream. And also, as I said before, they're prosumers, they're producing information. Before, watching television was like, you receive. But now you're saying, no, I want to produce my work. And so people have been a lot more active in empowering themselves. And so this is going to affect businesses and politics as well, because politics is finding it very difficult. I mean, we saw it in the recent elections in Britain, where there was a lot of, nobody knew who was going to win because nobody knew how people were thinking. They couldn't control them. Similar in Greece now, people are worried about how can they get the message across to the people, because the people are making their own messages. So empowerment of the people. Mm-hmm. The second thing, importantly, I think there's going to be in the next years a kind of struggle between censorship and transparency, because the energy coming in of this collaboration, communication, and consciousness is about transparency. And so the old energies, the old paradigm is about secrecy and control, which is why they're trying to control the internet now with all their surveillance mechanisms, because the people want transparency. And so we're going to see, I think, a lot of corruption coming out as transparency, as people use transparency methods. So, for example, FIFA. Who would think that the top people in FIFA would all be extradited from Switzerland to take court? The banks are now being taken to court because they're fixing the markets. Big businesses, some of their corruption are being known in the world. So this transparency is going to bring out a lot of the corruption, but at the same time the governments are going to try to strengthen their control over surveillance. This, in the next 10 years, I think, is going to be a big theme we're going to see.
Okay, so you said two for now. You said citizen empowerment and then censorship as opposed to transparency.
Yeah, and the rise of transparency.
The rise of transparency. Okay. Anything else? I asked for three, but like I really like to hear about all that.
Well, those underlying things are going to really change everything else. The technologies coming in are going to. There's still a lot of fear over technology because we fear that technology is going to control us. But technology now, with the new Internet of Things, they're connecting up all the devices. So there's going to be a lot of autonomous systems talking to each other. Now, what's important is that we, people, we develop our sense of integrity, our sense of ethics, because if we don't develop that in line with our accelerating technologies, we could have a problem. So the technologies could start to leave behind our ability to be integrated and working with the technology. So therefore, I think there's going to be an acceleration of the power of autonomous technologies, such as the beginnings of artificial intelligence. Now, people are going to be worried about that, but I think that they shouldn't be worried, but there's more emphasis then to work on our humanity. That's what we need to do. We need an emphasis on our humanity so we'll feel more at ease with our technology. Because if we don't do that, we're going to feel dehumanized by the technology. And that could create problems. So we need to work on our humanity.
Well, that's what's been happening, right? Like, I mean, a lot of people I talk to still think that technology is actually, it was supposed to get us together, but it's actually, I mean, I talk less with my friends nowadays than when Facebook didn't exist, right? Nobody calls each other. We're like more disconnected, it seems. It's easier to talk to anyone, but this, it's so easy that we don't do it anymore, you know? Or I don't know. It seems that it's working against us for now.
Well, it's because it's a new toy. Imagine when you was a girl, I mean, you're still a girl, of course, but I mean, when you're a little girl, and maybe your parents gave you your first doll or toy, you were so engrossed in your toy, you ignored everyone else and played with that toy for days and days, you know, before you went back into the world and talked to your friends. Now, technology is like that. If you think about it, we've only had the World Wide Web since about 1996, okay? So the internet really only came of age around, 2000. Technology is such a new toy for humanity. We don't know how to play with it. So we're so engrossed. We're on our phones all the time, on the internet, because it's such a new phenomenon for the human race. But over time, we're going to get used to technology. That's why I say the Phoenix generation will be the first generation to be born into a fully digitized world. They'll feel more natural with technology. So we have to integrate it in a more balanced way into our lives. So at the moment, the playing field is not yet even. We're still trying to play with a new toy and get used to it. It's still early days.
Mm-hmm. Right. Carol, are you there? Because you wanted to ask something, right? I'm having I'm thinking here that maybe I sent in the wrong link for everybody because nobody came in. So Carol, go ahead and ask your question.
Yes. First of all, I want to apologize for my English because it's not very good, and I'm really nervous, so I start mixing up things. So please, Alana, help me. If I say anything wrong, I'm sorry.
Your English.
Don't worry, Carol. Don't be nervous. Don't worry at all, because my Portuguese is terrible. So
I'm really
don't
nervous.
worry about your English.
And I want to thank you both for this opportunity. It's really great for me and for everybody else, I'm sure, to have the opportunity of making questions of my own concerns about the future and about how can I contribute to society, in this aspect. I heard a few days ago that we're not living an era of changes. We're living the change of an era, and that made me think a lot because I work with self-esteem and self-development, basically self-esteem and self-awareness and self-confidence. Because I think to deal with the changes we're living now, we have to be very secure about who we are, and we have to have this clareza. How can I say that?
Yeah, it's the clarity. This.
Yeah. We have to have clarity of who we are, and we have to know our abilities and be secure and confident about that. And most of all, we have to feel we deserve happiness we deserve love, and to do everything we can to oh God, I'm so nervous.
Don't worry, girl.
To achieve that happiness. And when you you know who you are, you know your abilities, and you feel you deserve happiness, you perseverate.
You keep on doing it.
Yeah, you're persistent to achieve that, and that's what I do in my work. Like you said before, it's a multitask because I take everything that makes sense to me to develop my own method of work and to basically to increase people's self-esteem, self-confidence, and self-awareness. And I want to know what the main aspect you think that should be priorizado,
Prioritize.
prioritize, yeah. The main aspect of self-esteem, self-awareness that should have to be, prioritized to prepare people to the future and to all these changes.
She's like a self-esteem coach, you know?
Wonderful, yeah. Well, thank you, Carol, and what you're doing, I think, sounds ideal for this time, because you're exactly right. Because there's so many changes going on, this is the ideal time to start thinking about what are our priorities. And it may not be totally comfortable, because sometimes changing our priorities can bring discomfort into our lives. And I think the main thing we have to work with and we should be sure about is to not have fear. Because it's this fear which has kept us in our old programming. And so it's used against us. So for example, if we want to change our job, you know, this fear program comes into our head thinking, well, if I change my job, then, you know, will I have security of money? And you know, will I have the same self-esteem? And will I be able to pay my credit card off? And, you know, what will my friends think of me? I have to be able to, you know, stay in the system. And so we think we have too much to lose. But in fact, if we go against our feeling of change, what we do lose is ourself. And that's the exact same thing we should be working with. So we have to understand that we do deserve this betterment. And in this time of change, what we need to be thinking about, each person, is what gives you meaning. You know? Because for so long, many of us have been doing work or been doing jobs that do not give us meaning. And now that things are changing, things are flexible, we have the opportunity to really follow what we feel we wish to do. It may be a little uncomfortable. You may have to downsize. You may have to buy less things with your credit card. You may have to change your habits because you can't afford the same things. But it's about rebalancing your needs, okay? But it's important that we have confidence that we can do it and we deserve it. So to kind of answer your question, I'm saying that it's okay to feel uncomfortable because we're changing a lot of habits. So don't try to ignore the discomfort. It may happen, but that's a positive sign. It means that we're changing old programming. And also, but discomfort does not mean fear. Fear is something totally different. You need to trust yourself, trust your intuition, and believe in yourself. Okay? If you don't believe in yourself, then no one else can do it for you. You know, I can show you a bike, but I cannot ride it for you. So people have to do it for themselves. No fear. I don't know if that answers your question, but it's my response, Carol.
No, that's great. I'm taking notes here. That you answered great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks. Again, there's no one right answer.
Right.
Yeah.
Dax, are you there? Dax, tudo bem?
Yes, I'm here.
Isso.
I arrived late, very late,
No
but I'm
worries.
enjoying.
Did you have a question?
Uh, I can ask how to break the ice. What's the first move that I have to do?
In what kind of situation?
To build courage to jump to the unknown. For example,
I'll back you up.
Thanks, Dax. A kind of good question. Yeah, a good like, what do we do? Well, I would say two things. The first thing is you really do have to trust and believe in yourself. Okay, and you know, have that conversation with yourself. So first off, you do trust yourself, and I would say that you don't have to make a huge opening first step, big gesture. You know, sometimes people think to change something, I have to make this big step first, like change my whole life, change my house, change my partner. Sometimes you don't have to make a big step. You can try little steps first, because also a sense of achievement helps to get things moving. So if you give yourself a small change, something to do to break the ice first, and once you achieve that, you'll get the sensation that it's doable, you can do it. So that gives you more confidence to take another small step. So don't feel about changing the whole world or changing your whole life immediately or overnight, but choose something which is meaningful to you, that you wanted to do and you think it will help, and take the first step and do it. And I've done that. That's how I started, and I felt a kind of satisfaction, like, yeah, you know, it wasn't that difficult. And then that gives you the energy to keep moving, because you know, it's like pushing a car. When the car is still and you try to make it move, it's so, you know, it's so heavy. But once the car's moving a little bit, it's much easier to keep it going. You know? It's just the first thing.
Dax, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? What do you do? What are you trying to jump into?
Well, I work. I'm a project manager, software project manager, and I need a day job. I need to have money to feed my family. So I have an obligation to allocate all my time to this activity. But my dream is not about having a good job, a good position in a hierarchy company. Actually, my father is from Brazilian military, and I don't believe on hierarchy institutions, and I work for one. Software development, so a modern one, but it's still a hierarchic organization. And I have some pet projects to build solutions to engage communities, but for me to start to work on these projects, I have to allocate the time that I still don't have.
Got it.
And yeah, so some questions about the value of this of the present strategies. Well, why don't I design the business, for example, to involve more people? But who do I have to choose to bring into the project? Why not to make the project for the community? My internal question is, I have a responsibility with my family, so I feel responsibility to design a business that will bring all the resources for me, for my family. I believe that in this postmodern world that we are today, we can think about solutions, networked solutions, but I still don't have courage to buy in, to jump into this world, this networked world. Do you understand me? I don't know.
I super understand you. Like it's the conflict that every people that I get in touch with are having that kind of conflict, right? When you kind of know what you want to do, but you still don't have the money to pay your bills and all of that, and you still don't have it to break up with this that gives you the security and the and your monthly payment of your your bills and everything, and jump into a new thing that you don't know if it's gonna work, right? But it gets to a point, according to my own experience, it gets to a point where it gets unbearable for you to do what you're doing right now. Like it's not an option anymore. You know, you're like, my cells cannot go into this job anymore. You know, that's what happened to me. It got to a point where like it was really going against my will to go to work, you know, and work 10 hours, 10, 12 hours of my day for someone else to make money, for someone else to grow, and for someone else to not do that cool things for the world, you know. So I guess in the beginning you kind of like have to do both, which is the worst part. You kind of like have to start the project and get it going while you're still getting paid on this side, but then it gets to a point, man, where it's not going to be a mental option anymore. It's like physical, you know. You just can't do it anymore. And then that's when you get the strength and the courage to really do it, you know. Whenever you're so like in contact with that thing that speaks to you, that voice or whatever, and then you at a certain point you're like, okay, that's the only voice I can listen to right now, you know. And then you jump and then you go, you know. And it's gonna be hard and it's gonna be tough, and you're gonna question yourself. You're gonna ask yourself that question many times, like, why did I do this? Oh my God, like, why did I leave the safety behind and did this? But then once you go through that, then you're gonna think like it's the best thing you've done in your life as well, you know.
Yeah. If I may add something, Dax, I agree with what Alana said, and I understand what you say. You have responsibility to look after your family. That's very important, and it's also I think it's a wonderful responsibility. A person who takes the duty of looking after their family, for me, is a great person, because that family is everything. But don't see it as a conflict. I know that you know, at the moment you don't have the time to work on what the projects you really want to work with, but don't feel it's a conflict with the family, etc. It's just circumstances now. If you think it's always a conflict, it's always going to be struggling with it. It's important that you've got these ideas. The seeds are already planted. Once the seeds are planted, they will start to grow. And as Alana said, it may come to a point that they've grown so much you have to do something about it. But if you think of your family as your support, you may speak with your family and say, look, this is something I really, really need to do. can we take some time of our time to work on this? Allow me to work on this for our well-being together. So always collaborate and discuss with your family whatever you want to do, so that they're a part of your project. They're never a conflict.
Mm-hmm. We're the ones that make we're the one that makes it. We make it a problem, right? It's just a situation, right? It's just a situation in your life that you feel needs to be changed and needs to be fixed. But it's not a problem. You make it a problem. It's only a situation, you know. So just keep on flowing, man, and it'll gonna get to a point where you know what you have to do, you know. Don't you think, KD?
Yeah, it may not, you know, it may not happen tomorrow overnight. It will take time, but once the ideas are there, they will start to work. So you know, don't feel frustrated that it's not happening tomorrow or next week. The ideas are there. Let the ideas grow. Let the ideas grow, and you know, you'll find that because you're starting to think differently, you're starting to see things, how things can happen differently, and see it as something that's doable. It's possible, but you just have to you know, do things bit by bit by bit. But
and you're also gonna change your energy, right? Sorry.
Sorry. Because you're already thinking it, you've already started the energy, the change of energy, the change of perspective. And communicate this with your family and tell them, let them know how important it is for you, so that you always feel supported. You don't feel like you're in the middle of this conflict that you think you have.
What I was gonna say is that it's gonna start changing your energy, and you're also gonna start. I mean, this is supposed to be a good thing, right? You already have something else in mind. I mean, you have a purpose. Like someone who is worse than you is someone who doesn't know what they want to do. So if you do have a project, you have something to look into. You have like a hope, you know, in the future, and then you can start. Like Kingsley said, let it grow, and your energy is gonna change because you're going somewhere, and then you're gonna start attracting the right people who are gonna bring you ideas, and maybe partners, and maybe, you know, other people who are gonna be in this with you, you know, besides your family. So.
Okay, we had another person down here, Alana, but I think
where is he? Marcio, where are you? I was gonna go to you next. Where are you now? He disappeared, man. Where is he? Let me see if I can talk to him on. Carol, do you have another question? Or Dax, do you want to say anything else? Dax?
Not for now. Thank you for your answers, your comments, your ideas.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm trying to. Oh wait, to share the link with someone who's trying to get into the join us to the conversation, and she's not. She didn't.
She didn't get in. Yeah. Well,
yeah.
I think I messed this up because I sent the wrong link. I sent the wrong link, so I'm now trying to put it on Facebook and other places to see if some people join in. But to most people, I sent in the wrong link, I think. Well, my bad. Technology, you know, I'm still getting used to it.
Yeah. Well, that's why we had problems trying to connect at the beginning, Alana, because the link just wasn't working.
Right. Well, not this one. The last one I sent you was right. It was your. I think the problem was your browser. But the first one I sent was wrong, right? And that's the one I sent. That's one I programmed on the email that was supposed to go to everyone.
Yeah.
So.
Yes, I clicked on the email.
Yeah, you did. Ah, you did? Oh, then it's right. Then I guess people are scared of speaking English on camera.
Well, it's Sunday afternoon. People want to be out enjoying the Sunday time, the weekend.
I guess that too. Well, then I guess we're gonna finish, right?
No,
We're
I have one other question, but can
Oh,
I?
Marcio, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Marcio came back. Come back, Marcio. Ask your question. I'll go back to you, Carol. Okay?
No. Well, first, nice to see you, Alana. Thank you for catching me out on the Facebook. No, I was just watching and learning with you guys first before I ask any questions.
Nice, man.
I
Thank
have many questions, but for now, let me elaborate more here.
you. Were you watching from the start or no?
No, first 10 minutes ago.
Okay, got it.
Well, thanks for joining, Marcio. But you say you've just joined us when we're just having a few questions, but we started over an hour ago.
Okay.
Yeah. So
nice to meet you, Kingsley.
And you too, Marcio. Thank you. And obrigado for coming.
I'll have a question for you in some minutes. Wait here.
Don't worry. Don't force a question. The worst questions are forced ones.
I have many questions, but let me elaborate one really good one.
Take your
All
time.
right, we'll go back to Carol then, and then we'll go back to you. Carol, vai, Carol.
Posso fazer
Olá,
a
como
pergunta em
estás?
português?
Pode.
Posso fazer a pergunta em português e você traduz?
She's gonna ask it in Portuguese and I'll translate it, okay?
Tudo bom.
Eu tenho percebido um aumento do movimento radical, um aumento de pessoas mais radicais contra várias coisas, por exemplo, os direitos dos gays e um fundamentalismo religioso exacerbado no cenário nacional. Não sei se isso também acontece no cenário mundial.
Tá, deixa eu traduzir por partes, né? Não me ferra. Calma, vai por partes. She has been noticing lots of like different, more radical movements, not only in Brazil but into the world. Like, let's say, even if they're fighting for gay rights or religious fundamentalists and whatnot. Okay, that's the first part.
E assim, eu queria saber se esse aumento desse radicalismo, desse fundamentalismo religioso, se isso pode estar ligado a uma resistência das pessoas às mudanças naturais que têm ocorrido.
Could that be like part of like resistant? Are people resistant to the changes that are coming, you think?
Yes. The rise of fundamentalism is a sign that the old paradigms, the old thinking patterns are changing, and people are, I say, struggling with this. Now, some of this is being manufactured. Some of this fundamentalism has been manufactured, or rather supported by the authorities, because they are trying to show that we are still living in a time of, great unrest and great, and fear in a way. Now, but I see a different way. The rise of fundamentalism and these types of violent groups and violent displays around the world is a sign that the old ways are on the way out, and they know that they're on the way out. That's why they're fighting more. Now, I use the analogy of a drowning person, okay? Now, when a person is swimming, when they're swimming fine, they're not making any noise, you don't see anything. But when they start to drown, they start struggling, making lots of noise, and they attract you towards them. Now, a lifesaver, a person who works a Coast Guard, they say, unless you are prepared, don't go to help the drowning person. It's dangerous. Because when they're drowning, they will hold on to you and pull you down with them. because they're struggling. For me, the fundamentalisms and the violence in the world is like that. They know their way of thinking, their paradigm is going out. So they're drowning. So they're making more noise to stay afloat. They're struggling. And they want to distract us, to attract us to their struggle. But no, I think we have to leave them to kind of drown their paradigm on the way out. And don't let us be distracted in our thinking by that. But it's right, fundamentalism, violence, duality, warfare, all these things which are supported by most of the governments in the world is a distraction method to keep us in the old paradigm. But it also means that they know they're on the way out and they're fearful of their own survival.
And is there anything we can do? Because we shouldn't be attracted to their movement, but is there anything we can do to deal with it or to bring consciousness to them?
Well, we should let it be, not to get involved in their battle. So the first thing is a conscious distance. We should keep that conscious distance so we don't allow our thoughts to be distracted. Now, for example, before, I used to get up every morning and over breakfast I would read all the different news from all over the world, all the main news sites. I had them in my feed list. And then recently I said, no, I'm not going to do this anymore, because the mainstream, that's my dog, by the way, Bart. The mainstream news is full of so much of this distracting rubbish, a lot of it, that I didn't find it healthy to start my day by reading all this mainstream control news. So I think we should make a conscious distance from what's going on with all this violence and this fundamentalism and get into our own space. Create our own conscious space. Create your own kind of protection. Because then that maintains your energy, your balance. And when you're balanced, you can give that to the people you're working with. That's what we can do. You probably recognize if you're in the presence of someone with nervous energy or something, you feel it. It affects you. So our duty to ourselves is to be balanced, to be conscious, and not to take the distraction of the world into our own personal relationships with others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you start inspiring people your way, right? You start doing your thing and inspiring whatever you know and whatever is important for you, and trying to affect the people your way, and that'll at least balance the forces a little bit, right? I mean, people start seeing all this fundamentalism here, but there's also Carol, who is inspiring me and saying wonderful things and making me dance and, making me feel wonderful. So what do at a certain point, people start choosing, right? They say they can make that choice. What do I want? What do I want to listen? What energy do I want to allow to influence me, right? Yeah. That's what I do, at least. All right, Marcio.
Oh, for sure.
Right? Do you have a question, Marcio?
Yes, I was thinking here about one thing that I talked to one of my friends this week. I know that you know him, Alana, Chico. Mm-hmm. He launched a course about productive habits here in Brazil, but I think that the sales didn't come so good, because here in Brazil we tend to put, I don't know if I will say this in English correctly, but here in Brazil we tend to put the guilt in the other. Mm-hmm. We tend to point the finger.
We tend to blame the other. Blame the other.
Yeah, blame the other, and we are not feeling responsible. I say we, but people in general tend to not to be responsible for their own acts, and so they didn't invest to improve their habits, the productivity, and this kind of learning here in Brazil is not so successful. Yeah, I know that outside Brazil it's very it's a thing that people tend to invest more in self-development and in habits and so on. And I want to know, Kingsley, what do you think about what we can do here in Brazil? People like Alana, myself, I'm a coach, and people that are want to help other people to be better, to be more invest more in self-development, in health, in what can we do, we as teachers or coaches, to bring these people to us, because I think that Brazilians, I don't know if in the world in general, but Brazilians are not so interested in self-development. It's getting better in these last years, but I think that we are the old. We can do very better in this.
Yeah, let me say a little bit. It's Kingsley, remember the first time we talked and I was crying? Because that's the thing. Like we hear all these wonderful things, and I listen to you, and I'm so influenced by it, and I believe it. You know that these changes are happening in the world, and all of the important thing is going to change for people, and we're going to be sharing more and all of that. And I trust it with my heart. But at the same time, during like your day-to-day and your life here, it seems to be difficult, and people seem to not be that interested in going into this, in sharing. And I feel many times that I'm alone in this boat, you know, or maybe I have Carol and Marcio here with me now, and I feel like I try to bring people in and show them the importance of this, and how can we change the world by changing ourselves, right? But I mean, and I do impact a lot of people, but it's still way less than it could be, you know. So it's like I think what Marcio is asking is about like the difference between the concept still of what we're coming up to, or what's coming up to us, and the difference of like what we see still in the present, you know, and how people are still completely unaware and not caring about anyone and screwing each other over and all of that, you know. I guess is that something? Is that what you're saying? A little bit.
Thank you for clarifying my question.
Well, I mean, thank you, Marcio. It is a problem, and it's a problem that we will always encounter, perhaps more so in Brazil because of it's not, as you say, a popular subject. I encounter that too. You know, ironically, I feel that it's the people who are hardest to connect with are the people closest to you. The people that I connect with are people who I don't know, you know, yet. You know, people who come into this understanding. I can't talk about my work with my family or my best friends, and they know what I do, but they don't understand it. So it's a different type of work because it's work on yourself. And when it's work on yourself, you cannot force it upon anybody. You cannot be a door-to-door salesperson on this. You can't go to people's door, knock on the door and say, would you like, you know, you used to sell things like windows or clothes, but you can't sell in a development to somebody else who doesn't want it, because it only works if somebody accepts it, because it's their self. So what you have to do is you just have to be present. Do your work. You have to, at first you get just a few people coming to you maybe, and you work with those few people. But try to make your work as available as possible. Make, I say, put it on YouTube, make it available online. Let people know that it's there. But you really have to wait for them to come to you, because the old way of doing things was like religion. They tried to convert you. If you convert someone in a development, it's never going to work. Okay? Because you can't make them copies of you. And you know, the role of someone who communicates, the role that they have is first to communicate and then not to be relevant. Because then the person will go off on their own. They don't have that dependency on you. So I say you just have to do what you do, keep on doing what you do. And so people will say, hey, I saw that guy, I saw his work, I like it. It appeals to me. So by being who you are, people will come to you. But maybe it'll be just one person or two people, a few people at first, until it's better known. But don't be frustrated. You cannot force it. Inner development is something which someone must choose for themselves. It's the only way. And that's why this business is the hardest path, because you cannot sell it, you cannot force it, you cannot convince it. All you can do is be it and let people see it for themselves.
There is no magic potion, right? You have to be
That's right,
yourself.
no magic potion. The magic potion, Marcelo, is you. Because if you're with people and they say, Marcelo, I like your attitude, I like you're very balanced, what's your secret? Do you have a job? Do you take a drug? And you say, well, actually, no, my secret is this is the way I feel, this is the way my perspective, I can share it with you. So you are the advertisement. You are the magic potion. If you live it, then people will begin to see it. But if one person comes, then two people. If they are changed, they'll go back to their communities and their friends, and they may change them. So it works a different way. For example, if you're selling a product, if you sell, let's say, 10,000 items of that product, or 100,000, you think, that's success. I've sold a lot. Because each product, you can quantify it. But in terms of any development, if one person comes to you, then they are changed. They go to someone else and they change them. That person goes to someone else and they change them. In time, they may have changed a lot of people, but you won't see it. Because it happens in a different way. It happens subtly. It happens 1 by 1, by 2, by 4, by 6, by 8, by 10. It happens in a different way. So you cannot measure success in the same way. So the only way of success you can measure it is if you feel in yourself that you've done and be the best you can. If you can, I remember once that when I was in Turkey, I went to a meeting of dervishes. You know dervishes? I went to a group of a teacher and some students in Turkey, okay? And I remember that they had a visitor, and the visitor asked the Turkish teacher, they said, you have all these people who are listening to you, but, does it matter to you if you don't make a big difference, you don't make a big change? And the teacher replied, he said, if only one person goes away from this meeting having changed, that's enough for me. I've done my work.
I totally believe in this.
On. Rock on, Kingsley.
Yeah. So don't measure success by the old way, because if you've just changed one person, then their effect in the world will be, exponential. Will be a different way.
Thank you, Kingsley. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marcelo.
Márcia, oi, tudo bem? A Márcia e a Tânia, my mom joined us, Kingsley. And Márcia.
Tânia.
So we have,
Hello.
yes. So we'll have 2 more questions. We'll go Márcia first and then you, Mom, okay?
Okay.
Well,
Márcia, go ahead.
I think my video just...
Oh. Good. My video, I don't know what happened. Sorry.
Can you see me?
Everyone's video just...
Yeah.
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 Go ahead, we can listen to each other still.
Strange, yeah, the video just boom.
Yeah, sorry. Hello, everybody. Well, I'm a physician and I'm a plastic surgeon. And as I always deal with the health, what I see is that everybody's getting sicker and sicker and sicker every day. And it's more mental than a physical way. And it concerns me a lot because I'm feeling like useless, as our medicines doesn't are meant to cure nothing. For there are some disease, of course, that like cancers, that they can do something. But what I see is that we have a lot of drugs that are not meant to heal, are just to keep some state of healthy, but don't keep people healthier. And that the mental state is so sick. And what we can see nowadays is a lot of panic disease, depression. Everything is more mental. I'm a physician like 20 years in the profession, and even when I start to practice and working with people in public service, and nowadays that I'm doing some work like this, nothing changes here in my country, and it's getting worse, and it's like Marcio and Dex asked you, we don't know what to do, because when you say something to change yourself, to hello, stop with drugs or use it, but take care of your mental, of the way you think, shift the way you think. It's like, oh, how come? I don't know how. It's so difficult. And so I think I feel like useless, you know, and it makes me very sorry and unhappy with my job nowadays. I'm thinking to change things, to change the way I do things, because what I feel is that even I'm a plastic surgery, that I have liposuctions and Botox, but even though the aesthetics just reflects the inside of this people. Did I make me understandable?
Yes. I just didn't understand the question. I understood the whole situation.
How to do, because I think I'm being repetitive because you have answered before that we are the example. But you know, it's like I feel like doing this and don't going away. It's hard.
Yeah, Marcia, thanks for that. I mean, if I can respond to you, I'm sure Alana wishes to respond also. I mean, I can understand it's frustrating. I don't obviously know your context and situation. There is a lot of dis-ease in the world right now. You say it's very mental. And me and Alana, we discussed earlier about what we call the illness industry, not the health industry, the illness industry. But I would say to you that, you know, as you've said, you're trying to explain to people that they should change their habits and their way of being. But if they can't accept this, you should not take that as your failure or you've not achieved it, because people have to make a certain choice themselves. They have responsibility to accept a different way of thinking. If they don't accept what you're saying, then we can't help people who don't choose to help themselves. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, the illness industry does not look at the real source of health. They look at the symptoms and try to just cut the symptoms. And when the body has a disease, the body is trying to communicate with it, saying there's something wrong. The body wants to heal itself, and the mind, and it's trying to give us signals. And a lot of those signals may be something which are not directly connected with the disease. The disease is the body's message to us. But where is the body getting the illness from? So a lot of it is about changing our habits, changing our lifestyle, changing our attitude, changing our diet. These things are things we should suggest to people, saying, look, you know, your disease is a sign from the body that something else behind it, the disease, is wrong. If you wish to work with that, we can have a conversation. I can try to help you. If you don't accept that, then you know I can't help you unless you help me first. But as I say, it's about changing people's thinking patterns first, and you know we have to work on the level of changing people's thinking. But we, as I said earlier, Marcia, you can show a person a bicycle, but you cannot ride it for them.
Yeah.
They have to choose to ride it.
Okay, thank you.
But there's no concrete answer for you, because this is the state of the world.
Yeah.
But as I said before to Marcia, and I think you heard, if we start to be the role models, if we start to make the change, then people might say, Marcia, you seem a balanced person, you seem to be doing okay, what are you doing? And then you can share it. You know, if someone asks you, you can share it. Until they ask, it's very difficult to put across the message. Yeah. But don't feel frustrated because you are doing what you are doing.
Thank you a lot. Thank you.
And I say, I know you're welcome, but you know, there's no one right answer. It's just we have to live with ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. In my office, I do more psychological job than other thing, because they need to hear. They need. It's like, oh, you need to do this, pay attention on this. It's a psychological consult.
Marcia, now you can recommend my program. Come on.
Yeah, of course.
Well,
no problem. That's it.
Marcia, also, I would say a lot of what you can help is very subtle, just by being who you are, by your presence. You know, people may not realize, but if they're with you and you are in the right state, in the right energetic state, they may feel better by being with you. They may not realize anything's changed, but if you can be in your moment, in you, in the present, in your correct state, with each person you're working with, then you are doing the work.
Yeah, I try to do so. Thank you.
All right, Mom, last question. Go ahead.
I saw Tania's face.
Well, first I want to tell you that I love you so much, Kingsley.
Hola, Tania, thank you. Thank you. It's good to see you again.
Yeah.
My mom is your biggest cheerleader, Kingsley. She's your biggest cheerleader.
Yeah, that's true. But
the people here may not know. They may be thinking, how come Kingsley knows Alana's mother? But we do know each other, so we are friends.
Yeah. But the question I want to do, I say to Alana in Portuguese, and then she translates, because you know that my English is so.
No, your English is good, Tania. Pero si quieres.
Yeah, that's because you are my friend. Alana, eu queria que tu perguntasse para o Kingsley o seguinte, de que eu estou sentindo que todas as coisas estão muito exacerbadas, que tudo está se movimentando de uma maneira muito rápida. E, no meu caso, eu vou dar um exemplo meu particular, mas que eu vejo que é uma coisa que está acontecendo com muita gente. Não sei se tu queres ir já transmitindo ou faço até o fim.
Não, é porque isso que tu falou, a Carol também falou, dela falou isso da movimentação muito agressiva e muito rápida que está acontecendo, assim, a gente já perguntou sobre isso, então...
Eu sei, eu estava ouvindo, mas é que o que eu quero conduzir para um outro lado é o lado de que parece, nesse momento, que não tem mais respostas externas, de que não tem mais nada que possa vir de fora, que, na verdade, dentro dessa movimentação tão rápida e tudo isso acontecendo, cada vez mais a gente tem que buscar a resposta internamente, tem que confiar na intuição, por mais louca que ela pareça, por mais doida que seja a resposta ou o caminho, a gente tem que confiar nisso. Eu estou sentindo isso agora. Também tem a ver com o fato da idade que eu tenho e tudo isso, talvez de uma mudança para um outro estágio, outro tipo de coisa. Mas o que eu queria, a pergunta realmente para o Kingsley é a seguinte: isso vem de alguma coisa externa? Isso tem uma motivação externa para acontecer? Isso está acontecendo porque tem um motivo, e se ele saberia dizer que motivo é esse, o que está acontecendo para que tudo tenha se exacerbado dessa maneira e a gente não tenha mais referências externas e sim tenha que buscar referências internas?
Kingsley, so she's saying that, of course, obviously everybody's been noticing that things have been changing way faster than they used to, right, in the past. And we barely like got used to something, and it's already changing again and changing again. And it seems like it's going to be happening faster and faster, right? But at the same time, she's saying that there are no answers outside. There's nobody new or no new master or no new person who's so knowledgeable who's going to come and give us the right answers for all these problems that we live and all of these questions that we have. It seems that everything is already out there. I mean, the knowledge is already out there, and that it seems that the move that we have to do is actually start to develop that capacity of finding the answers by ourselves and within ourselves, and actually trust our intuition more and more. What else, Mom?
And the question is, why this is going in that way? Why? What's going on? What's going on, Kingsley?
I understood that the question is, why do we have to more and more to look for the answers inside ourselves and not to look outside for the answers?
Yes,
yeah, but the question is, like, is there a reason for it? Is it something that's happening? Is there a reason for it, or no? Or it's always being the same, and we've just been more before we were used to just looking outside, and now it got to a point where there is no more outside, you know? Is there a reason for this movement that's going on?
Indeed, yeah. You're right, Tanya. What's going on? Well, that's the $64 million question, as they say. You know, if I knew that in one sentence, you know, I'd give you it.
Yeah, I know. You probably wouldn't be here, right?
I would patent it. Now, what you're saying is right. The days of the guru are over, and the days of the Gandhis are over. The days of the Martin Luther Kings are over, because that worked before in a different epoch, in a different energy, because the masses, the population, the people were not yet strong enough individually. So they've always needed an external source, an external energy. want a leader, a strong leader like Gandhi, to stand up and say, I will represent you. Okay. Now, if you listen to the conversation that me and Alana have had for the past hour before, I talked about one of the major shifts going on is the empowerment of the individual. Because we're now connecting across the earth, we're sharing our information, we are helping each other, and the new generations will be much stronger in that. The energy that is coming into the earth is changing. Before, and as I said earlier, before, the energy supported a vertical hierarchical system. And so that was the few leaders and we needed those leaders to give us our confidence. Now a different energy is coming in. The energy that Tanya rightly said is the energy of intuition. It's the energy of empathy. And with that is the energy of communication, collaboration, connection, compassion, consciousness. And that energy is something that is going and creating what I call a massification. I probably invented that word. What I mean is that there's a new energy going through the masses of the world, through all the individuals. And we're having more power now. We're having more information, more knowledge. And so at the same time, it means that we have to do more work on ourselves. Because if not, we may feel more unbalanced. This energy means we have to think more about our priorities, what we want in the world. We question our sense of meaning. Everything around us is becoming less stable. And so when everything around us is less stable, we have to be more, There's a great line from a poet. Rudyard Kipling, said that the mark of a person is when they can keep their head when everyone around them is losing their head. And that's what we must do. In this time of great change, we must keep ourselves balanced, keep ourselves psychologically stable, because a lot of people are losing it, because it's the time of change. And this is the change happening upon the planet. I think it's an advantage, but this is the bridging time. We're going from one world order or one paradigm across the bridge to a different energetic world, which the new generations are going to be helping to create. Our generation, for better or for worse, has to live with this disruptive change. And so the best we can do is to be stable ourselves, be stable for our friends around us, and be stable for our families and our networks. So why is it happening, Tanya? It's happening because the whole earth is going through an energetic rearrangement. The different energies coming in. And if we listen to the talk we had earlier with Alana, I said it's going into a horizontal distributed energy. In a way, a more feminine energy, because it's about collaborating, not about controlling. But this change is going to happen through all our lifetime. It's not going to change, it's not going to finish tomorrow. For us, it's going to be for the rest of our lives, probably. But if we can work with it, in 10, 20, 30 years' time, we're going to see incredible change happen. And seeing that change, I think, will give us, will make us feel better that we were here to be a part and to witness that change.
Okay, I feel at that moment, like in the poem, like the ones that are unstable.
Mm-hmm.
Not stable, but unstable. And that's very hard.
It is hard, but I think that over the years, our descendants will look back at this time between 2000, 2020, 2030, and they'll recognize it for being a time of incredible change, and they'll appreciate everything that we're doing. So years ago, as I said before, people used to think we lived on a flat earth, no? And we had to change people's thinking to believe we lived on a round Earth. But all those people who said, no, we live on a round Earth, they got criticized. They got told to shut up for being crazy. They had hard times. But now we are thankful for all those people who stood up and supported the round Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah? So our descendants will thank us for standing up and trying to believe in inner development, into the new paradigm values, into the changing world. We may not see all the results in our lifetime, but we are part of a great change happening upon the planet. If we look at the bigger picture, it's a very important epoch we're a part of. And we should be, for me, that gives me comfort that we are part of a change-making epoch.
And sometimes, Alana, fala para o Kingsley que vários momentos da minha vida que eu tenho vivido atualmente, é a sensação de que eu tenho que ir, como, de certa forma, como uma luz para dentro de lugares escuros. Eu tenho que ir para a escuridão para levar uma luz. Sendo que eu tenho confiança nisso, mas ao mesmo tempo é uma coisa um pouco assustadora também, mas eu sinto em mim como se fosse isso, como uma intuição de que é isso que eu tenho que fazer nesse momento.
She's saying that she's feeling that sometimes she has to be the light in the darkness, you know, and it's scary, and sometimes she doesn't understand it, but it's like she has to go in and live through dark times in order to be the light for other people to understand that darkness, you know.
Yeah. I agree, and again, there is no real answers. It's happening because it's necessary. We may not really understand what it's all about, and sometimes we may feel a bit frustrated, like, why do I have to do this? But why we're here on this planet. If you think that you're here on this planet to have to try and enjoy your life, to watch television, to go to sporting games, to drink beer, to get drunk, and then to die, and that's it, because you're living on a dead rock. If that's your idea, then you don't have to do anything. Fine. But if your idea is that we are here for a reason upon this planet, we are part of a living intelligence, we are here to support an evolving species, to support an evolving Earth, to bring life into this planet. If you think they're here because we are part of this great unfolding program, then yes, we do have a duty. It may not be easy, but but if you realize you're here for a reason, knowing you are part of that reason is enough.
Thank you, Kingsley.
All right, Katie, I guess we're through, It's already almost 5 p.m., so we've been here 2 hours. I appreciate your time so much, and thank you for existing. Thank you for your books. Thank you for the enlightenment you always bring into my life. I appreciate your friendship and what you do for the world.
Well, thank you, Alana, and thank you to everyone, because no one's doing it alone. If you weren't doing it, if you weren't talking to me, if you weren't reading my books, I would have no reason to do what I do. I do what I do so I can communicate and be with people like you. So we're doing it for each other, And so thank you for listening, because listening is as important as speaking.
Right on. Alright, todo mundo, um beijo para vocês também. Obrigada por participarem ao vivo. Obrigada por terem a coragem de falar em inglês. É difícil para mim também. Isso é capaz de vocês, pessoas corajosas, diferentes. Têm todas as condições de fazer parte dessa transformação do mundo. Um beijo em todos.
Eu quero.
Obrigado a todo mundo.
Yeah, I want to thank you both. Thank you all for this opportunity. it's really great for me to be here. And the last thing I want to say is that we have to believe in ourselves. We have to believe in our work, in our mission, because uh, it's bigger than us. You know, I know it. Sometimes it can be frustrated. We can't see the results, but we have to believe results are happening, and most of the time they don't happen before our eyes. They go beyond us. You know, we spread our message, and people we have never seen before, we have never heard about, our message gets to them, and that's what makes us moving. That's what makes us being here and believing in the changes, because we are here because we believe in a better world. We believe uh, what we do, it's bigger than us, and that's what I think. You know, we have to believe in our message. We have to believe in our mission, and know results are happening. Even if it doesn't happen before our eyes, they're happening.
Yay! I'm so proud of you, girl.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Everything we do makes a difference, however small or big. Everything, in some way, makes a difference.
Amém.
All right, I'm gonna finish transmission, everyone. Vou finalizar a transmissão, gente. Um beijo em todos.
Okay, bye bye all.
Okay.
Tchau, tchau. Espero que a gente possa
Bye.
fazer
Thank you.
Thank you, KD. Hope we can do this soon again.
Yep. Me too. Now I'm going to go for a cold beer.
All right, me too, man.
Thank you, Marcia. Also,
Ciao, ciao.
yep. Enjoy your days, everyone.
Thank you.